Tuned in to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and enthogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte, and Nicole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.
Oh, yeah, everybody. Good morning. It's Monday, November 28th. Today is Red Planet Day, National French Toast Day, and of course, Cyber Monday, the last day to get everything you want for the lowest price until December 26th. Thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms, especially right here at YouTube. We're live every Monday through Friday on YouTube and audio only on Clubhouse. And if you are joining us via Clubhouse, you can also participate in the show by raising your hand if you have a brief comment on the story most recently presented. But without further ado, let's pay a quick bill so we can get right back to the news.
At True Classic OG, we live by one motto: stay true. We stay true to our legacy cut of True OG that's always fresh, piney, gassy, and delicious. We represent the spirit, hustle, and diversity of our great city of Angels. And we stay true to the spirit of this plant, doing everything in-house to ensure that you get the highest quality and consistency with every batch. And that's what's made us LA's favorite OG. True Classic OG. Stay true, Los Angeles.
Oh, yes, that's right. It's Monday. Coming up first, we have the dope dad himself. That's right, Rico Lamitte. He is back from his fight with COVID and looks like he won. So shout out to winners and to dope dads all across the world. That's right, it's none other than the Rico Lamitte.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
What's happening, everybody? It is good to be back. So my voice is all fucked up. My camera's fucked up again, but I'm feeling really, really good. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be alive. Everybody, thank you for all the well wishes last week. Everybody reached out, sent food and everything, and I hope you guys had a happy Thanksgiving. But my story today is all about California. It's from essay by Lester Black. California's $11 million cannabis lab is off to a rocky start. Lab shopping, still the easiest way for dealers to maximize profit margin and capitalize on clout chasing custies by scoring state-approved 45% THC content labels slapped on 18% booth. Now, tell me what's dumber. A customer waiting 3 hours in line around the block to spend 3 times regular price on a limited drop of mysterious underground cultivator claiming their proprietary methods somehow unlock the true potential of your favorite mid strain, minus Sueños Azules. Or the California Department of Cannabis Control trusting $11 million to UCSD scientists who have never lab tested cannabis before to develop industry standards. I don't know, it's kind of a tough one there. 2018, California law required every legally sold cannabis product to be tested in a private lab for safety and potency before heading to legal dispensaries to be served up to the public. And I mean, an industry born to outlaws. Who would have thought, given the most consequential license on the supply chain to 60 different for-profit companies and end up with a few cats finding shady ways to edge out the competition. 3 years later, that shit finally hit the fan. Although such testing facilities are licensed by the DCC, industry insiders have for years been accusing these labs of fraudulently inflating THC levels. Over the last month alone, we saw two of the biggest brands in the state, amongst others, hit with class action lawsuits over customers claiming their official numbers ain't matching the high. Seeing this whole lab shopping thing was getting out of hand last year, DCC took initiative. Instead of sending $11 million of that cold, hard budget surplus cash back to voters, or maybe even back to operators to alleviate some of them knee-breaking taxes that contributed to some of this rule breaking in the first place, they gave it to UCSD to build a brand new lab from scratch that'd surely clean up the filthy mess created by those dirty, dumb weed labs who probably couldn't tell a Bunsen burner from a test tube. But the plan was to create standardized methods for private labs to follow for measuring THC. Simple enough, right? These guys are real scientists, not the fake ones who smoke weed, after all. And well, after a year of being approved, insiders are saying that the lab's over a year behind schedule and still only partially operational. The problem here is that state made the rules and they left enforcement up to private for-profit labs. They gave labs the authority to use proprietary methods to determine accuracy and print state-approved labels, promising products bought at legal dispensaries are safe for consumption. Kind of like corporate finance. State law requires all products be tested for the presence of heavy metals, mycotoxins, residual pesticides, accurate percentages of active compounds like CBD and THC. Desired lab result numbers give labs leverage over determining wholesale and retailer markups. And we all know numbers correlate to numbers. So it all makes sense in the grand scheme of things. Not really. Testing is expensive, and big contracts are lucrative for labs. Add that to the dragon chasing consumer driven demand to spend more dollars on a high potency product, shit happens. Earlier this year, 3 industry lab directors decided to conduct their own investigation, and they dispensary bought and retested over 150 products and found over 87% had inaccurate THC labels. And at least one of those labs even blatantly promising great potencies through ads on social media. The group published the results in Cannabis Industry Journal, and for the article, those 3 lab experts said that UCSD standardized methods in development will not stop testing fraud in the real world. One of the directors, San Diego-based Infinite Chemical Analysis Lab CEO Josh Schweider, said, in no way will standardized method prevent shady inflated THC results, and he also said that he could use the DCC method to produce any result possible for anybody he wants without getting caught. The companies are so accustomed to fraud that some regularly even call him up and demand he guarantee his flower results showing a minimum of 35% or else. I mean, they'll probably make a call to one of the other 59 licensed labs to test, and at least one of them is going to say yes. But in February 2021, UCSD professors Igor Grant and Jeremiah Momper were granted $11 million over 5 years to build and operate a reference laboratory, including $2.3 million in first-year equipment alone, and just under $1 million yearly for staff. To this day, they've yet to meet a single deadline for testing capabilities. As of July 2022, this year, deadline to complete their International Organization for Standardization, the ISO certification provided to their staff for equipment, and make sure that their staff and equipment are capable of running a contamination and potency testing. That came and went, and they didn't meet that deadline. All this after Schweider said publicly that ISO certs are a baseline requirement for any lab, and they're very uncomplicated. In his exact words, if you can do paperwork, you can get an ISO. In response to the allegations of DCC incompetence, spokesperson Maria Warren emailed SF Gate to say, the agency expects all of these milestones to be met by 2023, and the missed deadlines were due to COVID-related delays and supply chain disruptions. Despite this, CMCR reference laboratory has made progress building out the all-new lab and purchasing equipment and hiring staff. That's where Grant chimed in via email saying, there were many downstream effects of the pandemic, including significant supply chain issues and longer times for regulatory reviews, but he expects the lab to make all of their milestones in 2023. Even without ISO certification, the state's already given them their first task, which is that's not in compliance either, but to test a standardized testing process by the end of the year for everybody. But in June, the first attempt at a single standardized method fell flat. September, the California Cannabis Industry Association, CCIA, said the proposed method would create serious testing errors in THC potency in edible products, meaning a gummy testing at 0.5 milligrams for THC could actually contain up to 10 times that amount. Swider said the method wouldn't be able to differentiate between Delta 9 and THC and Delta 8. In October, DCC backpedaled again, reducing the standardized method requirement to just flower and pre-rolls. They still haven't published a final version, and the next deadline is less than 2 months away. I wonder if they'll beat the New York's race to the first adult use shop opening, and maybe Jason Beck will owe me $100 too. Swider and Josh Werzer, president of legendary multi-state lab operator SC Labs, chimed in on this whole conversation, and he said that it ain't the apps that aren't capable of accurate tests accurately. It's some intentional doctored results. They can still rig scales, record wrong numbers, put whatever the fuck they want in spreadsheets, even if everyone's required to use the same methods. I believe that surely this is a problem that $11 million of taxpayer cash can fix. It's not like they got to give up their secret sauce anyways. But I do have to end on this one. So Swider, his final thoughts to the DCC is pretty fucking funny. He said that they need to start auditing people, and they need to go in there and put the hammer down to the cheaters. DCC spokesperson clapped back at them, saying that they were actually already doing that. We've actually already been investigating multiple labs and sent out letters of warning. SF Gates said that the rep declined to share any specifics about any of that work. And it's not, as Swider close it out like this: the DCC is just slow and scared to act, and nothing happens. So, well, folks, there you have it. Another win for trappers and swindlers everywhere. Both lanes are slated to continue thriving and living their absolute best lives out here in sunny California for the foreseeable future. My name is Rico Lamitte. Glad to be back. I'm the dopest dad on the street. Still in quarantine, kind of. And glad to be back with you all at High at 9 once again. What do you think about that, Jason?
These labs, I mean, these labs are the most unregulated part of the entire industry and the whole supply chain, and just do a real disservice for the whole customer base, and the fact that they perpetuate artificial high THC numbers just to please consumers, because the average consumer doesn't understand that THC is just an antiquatable number.
Can I ask some questions? Can I ask some questions for you guys out there who actually deal with the labs? Like, what kind of turnaround are you expecting on when you send something in? How fast does this have to go?
72 hours. Yep.
Really?
Yes.
Well,
and that seems
48 hours, right?
That's not. There's no requirement on that.
There's no requirement.
No,
She's asking what's expected. What's expected?
I'm just asking what's expected to see if there is a way for someone like this crowd to be like, to have more state regulate. This is it, like a state lab.
The bigger problem is full COAs in under 72 hours are almost scientifically impossible, because a real COA has different types of microbial testing, and different types of microbial testing takes time. You can't just like expedite certain processes. So when we consider like the logistics of getting point A to point B, and move the material from point A to point B, and then you get to the facility, and then you have to do the different micro testing. 72 hours is about as much as you could like reasonably push somebody to expect to say that they may have done it correctly, or hopefully did it correctly. Anything less than 72 hours on a full COA, like, I call bullshit. I mean, I guess unless you were like physically next to the facility to get it like boom boom right there, you know what I mean? Because when we're talking about like these
how long would you say, Nicole?
72 hours is the like standard right now.
Right, but how long do you think it should be? Should it take like a week?
4 days.
4 days?
4 days. Yeah. 4 days would be a more reasonable number to be able to say that you've got the molds and all of the proper micro done right, as well as, to not push these labs to be pushing to the point of where they're making mistakes because they're moving so fast as well.
Yeah, so I know that SC Labs and Alec
problem?
Dixon are actually working with the state of California to make regs that are going to be binding for all all California cannabis labs. So there are going to be specs released Q1 this year.
So there's going to be specs released, but whether or not the state requires them is another thing, because that's one of the bigger issues right now, is that there are multiple methods to get to the same answer, right? There's 3 different lanes that they can drive through to get to the same destination. And some of them are a little bit rockier than others. Some of them are cheaper than others, obviously. And so, the fact that there's still not a standardized method to the madness, that's probably the bigger concern to me is, hopefully they listen to SC Labs and Alec and, their thoughts on it. But
I know the DCC is involved.
Yeah. Oh, the DCC is involved in a lot of stuff with a lot of labs. So that's the thing is there's a lot of labs that are consulting with the government right now, because at the end of the day, the government realizes they don't know. And if it's smart, it'll listen to multiple labs, because if you just listen to one, then the problem then falls on to SC Labs. So I would say 4 days, Gretchen, to be in a place that you're not similar to the potency testing, right? 27%. That's the number that of THC. We're over that. I almost call bullshit on a lot of these things. You can get up to like the 33, 34. Don't get me wrong, but 27% is the number, and 4 days is the number. As far as like what high T.
Do you think the big problem is people, no offense, like Jason, who want their test results like immediately? Is that the problem, or you think they're just on it to give people the higher THC?
Well, both, because turnaround time is, so when people are shopping labs, the way that they shop is they'll pull R&Ds and they'll figure out how fast they could get it, how cheap they could get it, and how high the potency is. Well, they'll look at high of the potency as the number 1 factor, return time is the number 2 factor, and price is the number 3 factor. So they'll pick based off of that a lot.
Can I ask a question? Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Felicia. This lab that's supposed to get $11 million, who got the $11 million, until it gets up and running, is it possible for the regulators in California to just do random pop-ins to different dispensaries and get the product tested at 1 or 2 labs that they know are pretty consistently accurate? And just go after the labs who have.
That's how they've done it. That's how they've done it so far. But one of the bigger problems is playing a lab versus a lab, and there's not really anything that's like consistent. That's probably one of the bigger problems that we're facing right now, Dr. Felicia. They have done that though, and they have done spot testing. In Colorado, they did it a lot. They would just have a health department person roll in and be like, bag all this shit up, I'm taking it with me. Literally, it was the craziest shit ever. They'll walk in, they'll check themselves in, they'll tell you what they want, and then they'll pull out their evidence bag and they'll be like, put it all in here, I'm taking it with me. And you're just like, what the fuck just happened? And they would just take it right out of the store.
Are the labs at least state certified or no?
Everyone is ISO certified. Everyone is ISO certified, and that's required, and they all have to have their licensing. But outside of ISO certification, there's no regulations in regards to cannabis testing. There is no state certification for cannabis testing. The only testing that they can fall under as far as regulations are concerned are ISO standards. And ISO standards are basically just laboratory standards that don't exactly have perfect answers for cannabis.
Yeah, and I'm learning about Michigan's regulations too. They followed the same path, and it's just crazy. These labs can come up with their proprietary methods and everything, and not really tell you like all of their secret sauce of how they got those results.
Yeah, but thank you so much for that story, Rico. It's definitely super interesting, and I think it's something that we'll keep following as things develop. But we're going to go ahead and hop to our next correspondent, Mr. Jason Beck, longest-running retailer in the history of regulated cannabis, smoker of the best weed in the world, and member of whatever political party might piss you off today. Jason, what do you have for us?
Oh, yeah. Good morning, Nicole. Hope everyone is having an amazing start to their week. And I'll tell you what, in Mobile City, the Mobile City Council in Alabama considers an ordinance to allow medical cannabis dispensaries. Mobile could join other cities in Alabama in allowing medical cannabis dispensaries after changes to their state law last year, depending on what the Mobile City Council does next month. On Tuesday, the Mobile City Council kicked off discussions of an ordinance that would allow medical cannabis dispensaries, sites, or dispensaries within city limits. After some debate, the council voted to table consideration for the ordinance until December 13th. The ordinance, which is sponsored by 4 council members, faced fierce opposition from council member Scott James and a handful of citizens who spoke during Tuesday's meeting. In quotes, "There's nothing about enforcement in this ordinance," Jones said. "There's nothing about oversight. There's nothing about regulation," he says. Last year, the Alabama state legislature authorized the production and distribution of medical cannabis and established the Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission, which oversees all aspects of medical cannabis in the state. The city council can choose to authorize dispensaries in Mobile, Alabama, but regulations would be left for the most part to the commission. Since then, a few municipalities in coastal Alabama have allowed dispensaries to open, including Daphne, Foley, and Loxley and Fairhope. All ruled against allowing medical marijuana dispensaries last month. Much of the opposition to the ordinance seemed to be rooted in the idea that allowing dispensaries would lead to increased recreational use of marijuana, which is still illegal under Alabama law. Jones and others argued that medical identification cards used by people who qualify for medical marijuana can be easily forged, and that dispensaries, which are not pharmacies, would not be stringent in enforcing the rules. People with a prescription for medical marijuana can already access it at a pharmacy, they argued, so allowing dispensaries would just allow for a more recreational use, they say. In response, Councilmember William Carroll, one of the sponsors of the ordinance, says that recreational use of marijuana is everywhere. So the ordinance says that recreational use of marijuana is everywhere. So they say that the city may as well try to find a way to regulate it. "I could take you to a place in the city where every corner somebody is selling marijuana," Carroll said during the meeting. "I can take you down some streets in the most affluent neighborhoods in the city where they're selling it out of their house and it's unregulated." Since marijuana is listed as a controlled substance under federal law and still illegal to use recreationally under state law, city officials said that marijuana laws would still need to be enforced. Zachary Huey, an investor in medical marijuana, said that police will be able to tell based on dosage and packaging whether or not marijuana is for medical use, and that dispensaries are required to have strict security by the commission. People in favor or against the ordinance debated marijuana's potential health effects. Opponents of the ordinance said that marijuana is a gateway drug to the use of other illegal substances, a claim that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention say there is, in quotes, limited evidence for. But proponents of the ordinance say that medical cannabis use can help people struggling with medical health issues or other medical conditions. Former Mobile Mayor Mike Dow, who now works with veterans, spoke about the positive benefits that marijuana can have for veterans. Struggling with post-traumatic stress, chronic pain, or other issues, the real problem, Dow argued, is the proliferation of opioids and opioid addiction. I commend you for that statement, sir. Dave Raley, a combat veteran and advocate who spoke at the meeting, said that CBD oil, which is derived from marijuana, saved his life. Riley, who lost his limbs in combat, said he was prescribed opioids for decades for pain. After he wasn't able to access opioids anymore, Riley said, marijuana and CBD oil helped ease the effects of withdrawal, and he's used it as a sleep aid ever since. In a quote, "I don't know much about marijuana problems or CBD. All I know is that it saved my life," Riley said at the meeting, "and I know veterans that are in the exact same predicament I was in." Jones and the council member Ben Reynolds also argued that the ordinance was being rushed through the council, The Medical Cannabis Commission has set a deadline of December 30th to apply for a dispensary license. Reynolds argued that the ordinance was being rushed through so that people applying for a license in mobile could meet that deadline. Reynolds said that the ordinance, which is about 3 pages long, was too broad and relies too much on the commission, which he said does not have any representation from mobile. Reynolds wanted to push consideration of the ordinance to allow the council to consider zoning regulations, tax regulations, and other mobile-specific regulations for dispensaries through City Attorney Ricardo Woods, said that the state legislation addresses most of those issues. The city is not taking the opportunity it has before it to restrict or change or modify how cannabis operations here will operate, Reynolds said. And since we've been given the opportunity to get this right the first time, we should take advantage of that, he says. Jones said the reason the ordinance was being pushed was because of the $20, $30, $40 million that he says people in the city have already invested in setting up a dispensary. During a meeting, Jones asked Dow how much money he has invested in bringing a dispensary to mobile. A line of questioning Council President C.J. Small stopped. The ordinance states that bringing dispensaries will generate employment opportunities in and local revenues. And in a city, a line that Jones and other opponents mocked says this isn't the first time that mobile has considered easing marijuana regulations in the city. In 2017, mobile mayor Sandy Stimson proposed making possession of marijuana a ticketed offense, eliminating jail time. But Woods says that due to state law, the proposal had to be dropped, although the council tabled the discussion until December 13th. In the meantime, however, the council's Public Services Committee will meet on November 28th to consider the ordinance. A member of the Medical Cannabis Commission, as well as a member of the Alcohol Medical Cannabis Association, a professional association of medical cannabis, have been invited to contribute and to the committee meeting as well. Well, I'll tell you what, a lot is going down in Alabama, and I am going to stay tuned, and I'm going to keep on sipping my tea. And this is Jason Beck reporting for High at 9 News.
You drive me nuts. You drive me freaking nuts. Is this like another Illinois? I mean, what the F? It's Mobile. You're killing me. Mobile, Alabama.
It's mobile. It's like a gas station.
It's Mobile. Anyway, I think this is a wonderful move for Mobile. And as being one of the larger cities in Alabama, I think this is a good thing for a larger population. There aren't a lot of large cities in Alabama to begin with. So if they can see it being adopted and these programs going well, I think it's good news for the rest of the state. You're an idiot. Mobile.
Yeah, Mobile, Alabama. Because they
Mobile.
The South needs weed more than most.
Well, since that story was only so interesting, let's go ahead and hop to the real reason we had our show today so that we could talk about some good shit that's going on around the world. Yeah. And to anybody that's out there in the audience, in regards to our comments, nobody's deleting any of your comments. We're not really sure what's going on as far as the filters. There might be a filter on the back end. Nobody is attempting to censor you all, just so you know. Throw your comments up there. If they're not showing, I'm not quite sure why.
Glass tips over filters all day.
What was that?
Glass tips over filters all day.
Okay.
That's right.
Can I introduce my man here, the man of the hour? We've got an awesome guest with us today. He's going to have a couple minutes just to give us a little update on what his organization is doing. This week, huge community come up. So he was arrested 7 years after being involved in a nonviolent cannabis crime, which strengthened his dedication to advocacy and community service through the organization 40 Tons. His partner, Corvain, was granted clemency. They came back home, but little did everybody know, Lorianne was behind the scenes putting it all together. The woman is always the glue that holds the family together. My man, Anthony Elagrete from 40 Tons is here to talk about their initiative that they have going on this week, man. Great to have you on the show. Love you, my brother. Tell us what's going on for the cheering this time.
Man, love and respect, Rico. Always appreciate the introduction. Big shout out to all the amazing women in this industry. You guys hold it down. You guys are the backbone to our communities. And if it wasn't for the strong women out there, we would not be where we are as the men in this society. So I always want to give a shout out. I see you, Nicole. Good to see you again, and back at it. Jason Beck, I see you, brother, smoking on the best weed in the world right now. I definitely want to hit it. And thanks to everybody else on this panel. Rico, love and respect. So, yeah, we are doing an amazing toy drive / gift drive / community give back event called Can of Christmas. And what Can of Christmas is, it's an homage and honor of the late, great Mickey Martin. If you guys are familiar with who Mickey Martin is, Mickey Martin had, Parents for Pot, and he was an individual that helped cannabis prisoners' families get Christmas presents for the kids. For the kids of those that were incarcerated. And so Corvain Cooper was a direct recipient of that program. And we're not just talking about like 99-cent store toys. Like, we're talking about bikes and like really expensive, good quality gifts that these families wouldn't be able to afford because their loved one was in prison for cannabis. And so we wanted to do something very similar to that, but with our own 40 tons twist. And so we're doing the Can of Christmas on December 3rd in downtown Los Angeles at the amazing Green Street. And so we are inviting folks to come out. Brands have gotten involved and have donated either funds or something of monetary value in order to help these people. But the kicker with this event is going to be, we actually have a couple of the families coming out. And so we're going to get to really, have a panel and speak to some of these women about what it's like to, have to deal with, someone incarcerated, right? You got collect calls, you've got commissary, you got to pay the bills, you got to get the kids to and from school, you got to pay rent, you got to go through all these things that everybody focuses on the prisoner, but we sometimes often forget about the person who actually holds the pieces of the puzzle together while that prisoner's in prison over cannabis. And so that's what this event is to honor. And then, we're going to have, some fun, and we're going to hang out and music and network and deliver these gifts to an organization called Cause. And what they do is they help get those gifts to the actual prisoners' families. And so they deal with all the shipping and getting, the toys directly to them. And so that's what's up. December 3rd, 3 to 7 p.m. This is why we do what we do. We don't just sell weed. We sell weed, but we also help the community that we once were impacted by. And so when you buy 40 tons, whether it's an eighth, whether it's a t-shirt, or whether it's, an accessory, you're helping the cannabis community. And so our whole mission is to, obviously free the cannabis prisoners, but then once those prisoners come home, providing opportunities and outlets to actually be productive in the society so that we don't put them back in jail, because it doesn't mean nothing if we get them out and then they only go right back. So we need to break that cycle. And so that's what 40 tons is all about. So love, respect. Sorry to ramble, but I get passionate about this stuff, and I love what you guys do, and you guys are awesome. And, thanks for allowing us to speak about this event.
Love what you do, man. Can't wait. And everybody, if you got $25, man, put $25 in, send a toy, help a child. And man, it's for the future. And 40 Tons always doing great things for the community, man. Thank you for coming on.
Do you have retailers in California that are helping participate and facilitate this?
So we have, we don't have that many retailers, but we do have.
Do you need some retailers?
We do. That would be
awesome. We need retailers. Okay, awesome. Any retailers out there, Jason Beck, or anybody that maybe are in the audience that want to help with 40 Tons to get more toys to more children, to be able to help more people whose parents are incarcerated, he probably needs some help with that.
What else?
Anthony, pushing out the old DCR. I already did that this morning for you, my brother.
Anthony,
I'll be contacting you later today too.
Anthony, do you guys have a list of dedicated recipients currently already?
Yeah, we have about 5. We picked 5 families that we're helping, and we're working with Freedom Grow. So Freedom Grow and the Can Do Clemency, and we're working with
2 great organizations, I must say.
Yes, yes. So yeah, Carly Kramer is a big part of helping us out. And so we have Herbal, right? Because we're distributed through Herbal. So they put up Stizzy, was a retailer. Duran in their CSR department really supports us. And then a bunch of like smaller brands like Mother Exotic Flower, Stack, and a few others, Grow XAI are companies that are helping, but we would love to get more retailers. I'd love if Catalyst was involved. Thank you, Ben, for mentioning that. The one thing that I did want to ask the audience is we're looking for a drink vendor that would be willing to donate, drinks for the audience, right? And they could promote their brand. We'll promote them everywhere. We're keeping it intimate. It's only going to be between 75 and 100 people. We're not making this thing super large. So it would be drinks for that if someone was willing to donate that. And then any of you guys on the panel or involved with High at 9 News or in the audience that wants to bring their stuff and donate, put it in a goodie bag, we'd be happy to promote you guys as well.
Do you have like the ages of the kids that are going to be beneficiaries? So then that way, if people are going to buy a specific present, then they can tailor it to that age.
Great question. So because obviously there's kids of all ages and there's different types of that, what we do, who we're working with, they're called Cause, which I can send you guys all that information, is they say just get whatever you feel inclined to give. And what they'll do is because they have so many people incarcerated, they'll help get it to that right particular age group. The 5 families that we have, I have the information on that. And we're going to be helping them with like holiday dinners and, Visa gift cards and kind of letting them choose what they want to get for their own particular kids. But we're just saying like a $25 value toy, whether it's a game, from ages, toddler to, teenager. You guys can pick what you guys want to provide.
Amazing.
Well,
Amazing.
Thank you so much for this, Anthony. And thank you guys for everything that you guys are doing. This is just one of the many, many cool things you guys are doing, trying to help those who are unfortunately, in my opinion, wrongly incarcerated around the country for cannabis. And you guys have just really been such an inspiration to see what, an experience like what you guys went through can turn around and create for an opportunity for others. So thank you so much for everything you do and for coming and joining us today. And like I said, we will get some people to help some different companies around the state. And I think I could definitely figure out that drink situation for you. So thank you so much, Anthony. We're very thankful to have you. We're going to go ahead and hop to a quick commercial break so we can say thank you to some of our other sponsors.
Awesome. Can I send you guys?
You want to grow some of the best weed in the world? Then you must start with the best genetics in the world. Go to www.dnagenetics.shop to order regular, feminized, or autoflower beans. All of your favorite DNA genetics cultivars such as Kosher Kush, Skywalker Kush, and oh yeah, Chocolate Truffles Shuffle. Boasting more cannabis awards for their award-winning genetics than any other company in the world. Remember to go to www.dnagenetics.shop to see why our terps don't lie.
Anthony, sorry about that. Our commercial cut you off, but you had something else to say for us. Oh, wait, you're muted. Hold on, unmute.
Sorry, can you guys post the Eventbrite link in the chat?
Yes, we can.
And then we'll go from there. But all of you guys, today and tomorrow was my day to send out personal invites, and you guys were on the list to actually come out. So for us to invite. So I'd love to see you guys out there if you can make it.
Awesome. I put that in the chat, and thank you again so much for joining us today. We are so thankful for everything that you guys are doing for the industry and for these kids. So we'll go ahead and jump to our disclaimer. The thoughts and opinions in general shade thrown on the High at 9 News are those individual speakers, not those of any other speaker or its followers. The statements made do not constitute legal or accounting advice, and our speakers make no representation regarding legal status of any substance in country, territory, or its authorities. The views expressed in this room are not established fiduciary relationships or sponsors, do not apply, constitute the endorsement by us, the expression of any opinion whatsoever. It's part of the speaker or anyone on stage. If you're an easily offended person, this show is probably not for you. Also, go donate some toys.
Flying into LAX and you want to taste some of the best weed in the world? Then stop by LAXCC, the closest dispensary to LAX, located at 8332 Lincoln Boulevard and open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. Always make LAXCC your first stop when you touch down in LA and score like a winner. And don't forget to tell them I sent you and mention you'd like to get High at 9 for 10% off your full order.
Well, I just realized that Rico's not here to introduce. So we have Gretchen Gailey. Gretchen Gailey is our feisty redhead, founder of Panoptic Strategies and our very own Washington insider. Also somebody that's willing to be a Republican and still fight with Jason Beck about Republican things. Gretchen, what do you have for us today?
I'm on mute, sorry. Good morning. First, I'm going to give a shout out to Weed for Warriors. I have picked another story, not in Marijuana Moment, since I was accused for being a Marijuana Moment lover. My story is coming from the New York Times. I hope you like these libs instead. Headline, marijuana pardons affect just a sliver of those swept up in the war on drugs. Valerie Schultz's conviction for possession of a small amount of marijuana in 2010 was anything but simple. Ms. Schultz was arrested on federal land, the Mount Olympus Trail in Utah, which means she was charged under federal law. The authorities found pot in her car, so her license was revoked. Without the ability to drive, she was forced to give up her job teaching second grade. She said, "It just seemed like it was a very harsh punishment. You think I'm such a menace to society because I'm smoking in a forest?" President Biden's last month decision to pardon thousands of people who had been convicted of marijuana possession under federal law was an acknowledgement that his administration does not see possession of cannabis with no intent to sell or distribute as a public safety threat. But people like Ms. Schultz, whose lone conviction has hounded them for more than a decade, represent just a sliver of those swept up in the decades-long war on drugs. A majority of marijuana convictions have been state crimes, which Mr. Biden does not have the authority to pardon. He can only hope that governors will follow suit. And while many advocates welcome the presidential act of forgiveness, they say far too many people, many of them Black and Latino, are not eligible for the pardons, leaving them with minor marijuana convictions that will continue to get in the way of job prospects, educational opportunities, and financing for homes. Kevin Munoz, a White House spokesman, said the marijuana announcement was one of the largest single uses of the president's pardon power in history, one that will bring relief to thousands of Americans, disproportionately Black and brown, who are unfairly barred from housing, employment, and benefits. The highly targeted pardons fit a broader pattern for Mr. Biden when it comes to reforming America's criminal justice system. A champion of aggressive drug laws earlier in his career, including the 1994 crime bill that led to mass incarcerations, he has more recently embraced leniency for those convicted of minor drug offenses. As president, he has favored taking limited steps that can enact change slowly, not the kind of overhauls that some in his party believe are necessary to reverse the impact of harsh prison sentences that have disproportionately harmed minorities. Mr. Biden has said he does not support legalizing marijuana, putting him at odds with 80% of self-described Democrats and 68% of Americans, according to a Gallup poll released earlier this month. According to Nanya Gupta, the Associate Director of Policy at the National Immigrant Justice Center, it's symbolic to have the White House to start getting behind decriminalization of marijuana in this intentional way. She said that 45,000 immigrants have been deported for state and federal marijuana possession charges between 2003 and 2018. But the symbolism of it is different than those who it actually helps and affects and impacts. Criminal justice reform advocates said most federal marijuana possession cases involve someone found with the drug at a border checkpoint, on federally owned land, or at an airport, even if they were flying out of a state that had legalized marijuana use. More than 55% of the 77,800 citizens and legal permanent residents convicted of federal marijuana possession from 92 to 21 were Black or Hispanic, according to data released by the U.S. Sentencing Commission. Most of the prosecutions for the drug have occurred in California, Arizona, and Texas. Nearly 150 people were sentenced in the federal prison system for marijuana possession in the 2021 fiscal year, while more than 1,000 offenders were sentenced for trafficking marijuana, according to the commission. How long have they been saying, let's study it? According to Ms. Schultz, the research is out there. The story goes on for a bit more, talking about immigrants and other folks who have been having to deal with the war on crimes and how Biden has really kind of missed the boat on his great, wonderful pardons. I agree entirely with the New York Times. And it is nice to see that this kind of issue is being highlighted in a major national newspaper. And I hope that this gets the word out to more in the space. And truly, he really needs to look at the immigrant population and folks that have really been impacted by this, instead of, the 3 people who were arrested in a national park. This is Gretchen for High at 9 News.
Well, since there doesn't seem to be a ton of comments on that, Jason, with a little bit of a smart face, we'll go ahead and see if we can get to our next correspondent, because we are a little bit tight on time today. We want to go to Dr. Felicia?
Yep. Gretchen, you're 100% right. You're 100% right on that article. But nonetheless, that's right. He does. One visit to this office is sure to get you access to all kinds of blue pills. All shapes, sizes, and colors are always included and welcome in this safe space. She's the Plants for Life CEO and a dual board certified physician, always promoting cannabis as medicine. And if you play your cards right, she'll mix some yellow ones with your blue ones to give you a greener experience. It is none other than the Dr. Felicia Dawson.
Thank you, Jason. Happy Monday, everyone. Coming to you all from Clubhouse. My headline comes from CBS Pittsburgh. Pennsylvania Department of Health launches pilot program to help seniors with medical marijuana by Patrick Damp. The Pennsylvania State Health Department is launching a pilot program to help seniors afford the cost of medical marijuana. The Medical Marijuana Assistance Program Fund was created with the passage of Act 16 in 2016. It is a special fund in the state Treasury, and the Office of Medical Marijuana was tasked with assisting patients by using an allotted percentage of this fund to establish, number one, a program to assist with the cost of providing medical marijuana to patients who demonstrate financial hardship or need. Number two, a program to assist patients and caregivers with the costs associated with the waiver or reduction of fees for identification card. Number three, a program to provide for the cost of background checks for caregivers. The program was executed in 3 phases. Phase 1 eliminated the annual card fees for eligible participants registered in an existing Commonwealth financial hardship program. Phase 2 eliminated all background check fees for eligible caregivers. And phase 3 will be distribution of a to be determined benefit amount per funding period per eligible patient. So phase 1 and 2 were implemented on March 1st, 2022. Phase 3 has commenced, and nearly 1,400 patients enrolled in Pennsylvania's prescription assistance program will receive $50 per month until next June. I am all for any program that will assist our seniors, given that many are on fixed incomes and we are already paying 400% more for the same medications being used in other developed countries. Why? Because our government is in the pocket of Big Pharma. The elimination of the background check saves time and money, another plus. And the $50 stipend is a bit on the puny side, in my opinion, but every little bit helps. This is Dr. Felicia Dawson reporting for High at 9 News. What are your thoughts?
Great article, Doctor. With you, Dr. Felicia. Being a Pennsylvanian, there's a ton of seniors. There's a ton of old people in Pennsylvania. We have a very old population, frankly. And so, like you say, every little bit helps, but $50 really doesn't cover much. But it is saying something that a state is providing funds to actually start covering it. I think this is huge, huge. In the words of Donald Trump, and other states should pay attention.
Huge.
It's huge.
Successful, so it can be, launched in other cities. That would be great.
I was very excited to see this, and yeah, you're right, Gretchen. $50 is like nothing, but It is a step in the right direction. There are also some health insurance companies, if you work with your provider, some PPOs that will allow for herbal reimbursements. And some of them have accepted cannabis, like openly accepted cannabis. You just have to work with your provider correctly. But they're like, you can get reimbursements from like the Vitamin Cottage and stuff for certain insurances. And some of them do and have accepted cannabis, which I think is super rad. But yeah, we definitely want to make sure that we get all of our speakers in today. So up next, we have Chris Eggers. Chris is the founder of CC Security Solutions, a former cop turned cool guy and a friend of the news. And actually somebody that, you know, kind of reminds me that cops are people too, because this guy over here became a regular human being and he's a real boy.
I like to thanks, Nicole. I like to think I was always a real boy. I just happened to be a cop for a little bit, and appreciate the intro. My article today, and happy Monday, everybody, comes out of North Carolina. Headline reads: North Carolina hasn't decriminalized marijuana, but some North Carolina counties are effectively doing so. It's a bit of an op-ed piece, but it's got some really good data, and I wanted to share this morning. As lawmakers drag their feet on legalization efforts, some district attorneys and local law enforcement may be a step ahead and already decriminalizing misdemeanor marijuana possession through everyday discretion on cases. It's not just the interest of social justice, it's about preserving resources. In a world where marijuana is widely used, adult use, they say recreational, but adult use drug and easily accessible through the mail, there's simply too much of it and too many users to prosecute everyone. Satana DeBury, Durham County's district attorney, said, quote, "It's not high constitutional priority for us. We want to save our resources for more serious cases or for possession cases in which the substance has led to more serious offenses." And Jim Woodall, the outgoing district attorney from the Orange and Chatham counties, said in 2020 that he had more or less decriminalized possession, quote, more or less, decriminalized possession of less than 1.5 ounces in the county as well. And the governor's task force for racial equality and criminal justice, of which Woodall was on, recommended the same position for the entire state. It would probably be better to have uniform ordinance or declaration on marijuana decriminalization. It's not a new concept. Normal reports that almost 100 municipalities across the country enacted laws or resolutions that decriminalize marijuana. And I think I recall reporting a while back on an article out of New York in which NYPD put out a memo directing their officers not to enforce marijuana possession. In North Carolina, there's some legal murkiness over who has jurisdiction to set laws outside of the basic functions of a county or city. The district attorneys, on the other hand, are allowed to practice discretion on cases, but legal clarity would provide guidance for law enforcement officers too, and it would keep charges from appearing in public record or on third-party background checks. In addition, I'd like to add that officers on the street, have discretion. I personally use discretion every day, probably a couple times an hour, walking on Market Street in San Francisco as a foot beat officer, to not engage with folks who were smoking marijuana, just not something I chose to deal with or allowed my recruits to deal with. North Carolina, like most southern states, doesn't allow public petition for charges to the law. Virginia was able to pass medical and recreational laws back in 2020 without allowing initiatives. But it was because Democrats held both chambers of the state legislature as well as the governorship. Decriminalization of marijuana in specific municipalities would be a bit unfair to the rest of the state. A person could be prosecuted for lower level possession in Person County, while their friend in Orange County didn't suffer the same consequences. So wanted to bring this to light. Appreciate you sharing, allowing me to share this with you. I think it's interesting, obviously, how different counties use their discretion, and it is up to ultimately the district attorney once an arrest has been made. But local law enforcement has the ability to not make that arrest. And I think it's important to note that. And I think that there should be more memos going out to local law enforcement to help direct them so that they're not making up or utilizing their own discretion. That's just my own personal opinion. Happy Monday, everybody. My name is Chris Eggers, reporting for the High at 9 News Hour.
So I feel like this is similar to what's happening in Texas, right? Like Texas won't legalize, so these little cities are like, well, we'll figure it out, like the Austins of the world.
Right.
I didn't realize that there were Austins in North Carolina, though, so that
I didn't either. Yeah, good point.
Yeah. But I guess we have just a few minutes left, so let's make sure we get to Matthew before the end of the show. I'll go ahead and introduce him since Rico's not here and no one else is going to jump in.
Oh, where did Rico go?
Matthew, yeah, Rico's been gone for a while. Matthew St. Germain is a cannabis wizard doing his damnedest to continue the work of the Merry Pranksters and the Brotherhood of Eternal Love. Alongside the Hogwarts PhD and Trippin' Balls, this co-host of What's Good, the Cannabis Flower and Hash and Review Show, and the host of Radio Free Earth podcast, boasts over 33 years in the game for sales, genetics, and cultivation. The immortal Transylvanian Count himself, Matthew St. Germain.
Good morning, Nicole, and everyone else, and happy Monday. So I've got a story about Thailand. Thailand's cannabis program takes another hit. Chaos and anger ensue. Cannabis shops and cafes in Thailand will no longer be permitted to allow customers to smoke marijuana on the premises, though on-site consumption of medical marijuana will still be tolerated only if the cannabis is sold by a medical practitioner. Thailand opened its first cannabis cafes in late July, hoping to beef up its tourism prospects following the pandemic. The announcement made by the Ministry of Public Health on Thursday went into effect immediately, reported Thailand's Royal Gazette. The ministry will now classify THC-rich cannabis flower as a controlled herb with restrictions including prohibiting the sale of cannabis flower in addition to banning on-site consumption. Other measures in the new ruling are repeats of original restrictions such as age requirements, 20 years and above, and the ban on selling cannabis to pregnant and breastfeeding women. The mandate also prohibits online and vending machine sales of cannabis flower. In 2018, Thailand became the first Southeast Asian country to legalize medical marijuana. Some 4 years later, it took those cannabis regulations to the next level and became the first in the region to decriminalize marijuana, though the country has come under harsh criticism for lack of regulations. The recent rulings come on the heels of a court petition from the president of the Forensic Physician Association to relist cannabis as a narcotic in response to a wave of news reports about hospitalizations and use by children. Now what? Putting the genie back into the bottle is not going to be easy. It was never meant to be like this, says advocates. It's horrible. It's chaos. We want it to be regulated and enforced properly. I don't want underage people smoking. People are buying off the streets very easily while the origin of the weed is not being checked, said Praya Araek, a cannabis entrepreneur per This Week in Asia. We want a good law, a law that is clear and enforced. It seems like Thailand is still really trying to figure itself out as to what it's doing. And I'm really interested in hearing comments from y'all. St. Germain here for High at 9 News on a Monday.
Oh, Thailand. Looks like it's going to get real rocky. I know I've seen a bunch of people going out there, and a lot of other people are planning on going out there. What do you think, Nicole?
Well, I've been curious to see how long it was going to take before like there was just like a wrench thrown in the gears of all of that movement. It was too good to be true when you look at how fast and how expeditious everything was happening.
How open, right? How open and free.
Well, it wasn't. It was just not regulated yet, right?
Yeah,
so it's the same.
Yeah, open and free.
No, it's the same thing that happened in every other state that's legalized, where everyone's like, "Wow, we're gonna have weed," and then everyone like moves to Colorado and starts growing in a trap house. That I definitely was waiting for, China or some other Asian country to weigh in as to how they're handling and how they're treating the legalization of it. I don't know if we're seeing that yet in the news, but I know China's got to have an opinion about this.
I think it's important to stress that yeah, exactly. Sorry, go ahead, Dr. Felicia.
Yeah, education will go so far in every area around the world that you have a bunch of cannabis naive people jumping into it for the first time. You've got to educate your populations a good year while you're working out your regulations, whatever. A good year at least. Start communicating about driving under the influence, edibles, all that stuff. Education is so crucial.
Yeah, we see in Amsterdam and Portugal, states, countries that have had legalization or decriminalization for decades, that teen use is sub 30%. And what we find is that with education, you actually can lower usage quite a bit. And the other thing that we see, especially if we look back to California in the 60s, because of the demonization of cannabis, when people would approach cannabis and find that it was actually hugely beneficial with very little downside, they then wouldn't believe public authorities about opioids, speed, cocaine, and these other hard drugs that are incredibly horrible for not just individuals, but for the community. So in broadcasting clear information and education, I think we make childhood use of cannabis and other substances lower, but we also provide a clear message so that we're not lying to people about everything, because when you begin to lie to the public about everything, they believe nothing, and then we're just devolving into chaos.
I mean, I wonder how much of this has.
I'm excited for the devolution.
I
I'm so excited for the devolution. The devolution is coming. It will be televised and it will be on your Instagram.
I'm a chess nerd. I'm looking forward to evolution and education and intelligence for the human race.
Oh God.
I wonder how much of this.
I'm a nerd, so there you go.
I'm hopeful though. That I'm hopeful of evolution.
I just wonder how much of this has to do with the overall health of the king currently right now.
The actual health of the king?
What do you mean? Yeah, the actual health of the king, because the king is not in the best of health, and if he goes, then there's going to be a big power suit to see who gains power in Thailand politically.
I only say I'm excited to witness the devolution because I truly think the only way that we're going to get anything or anywhere is like chaos and a full restart and a full like fucking implosion to like re-begin. And I think that's going to be one of the only ways that we get the change that this world and this country so deserves. But we are at the top of the hour. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you so much, Anthony and 40 Tons, for coming on. Thank you to every single person who tunes in every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. on the West Coast and high noon on the East Coast. Thank you to our supporters and our haters for still talking about us, to LAXCC, True Classic, and DNA Genetics for helping us keep the lights on, and to each and every one of you for tuning in every morning and getting high at 9 with us.
Happy Monday.
You are tuned in to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and enthogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte, and Nicole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.
All right.
That was a great show, everybody.
Yes. Good job.
Thank you so much. I'm taking a screenshot of that thing I was talking about with the comments. I have to log into